Parallelograms also have a fairly straightforward equation, formula. Although, you'll notice this is b times h. When we're talking about the area of a parallelogram, I guess it's maybe not as straightforward. But when we're talking about the area here, the h is actually not the distance of one of the sides of the parallelogram. H is a distance generally referred to as a height or an altitude. It is the distance to the other side as measured by a perpendicular, as measured at a perpendicular. So if we call this side our base, then our height would have to be this distance right here. And the area of this particular parallelogram would be base times height. Let's see if I can copy this over here. If our parallelogram looked like that, and let's say I called this side the base, then what I'd have to do is I'd have to take a perpendicular off of this side, and that would then be my height. So I could find the base, I could find the area by using base and height in either of these, but you can see the height ends up not being the length of one of the sides. It ends up having to be measured at a perpendicular to whatever I'm calling the base here. Now, the reasoning for this, I'll get into that a little bit. Let's think of if we had this parallelogram, and let's see, we know the area of a rectangle, and if only I could, cut this little bit off and move it over here, take that bit and move it over here. Well, if I was to do that, this part would be gone, and this would match up perfectly. This would match up actually very nicely because this side was parallel to that. And if I'm cutting this at a perpendicular, then that means that this angle here that I form would end up being a 90-degree angle. You'd actually form a rectangle by doing this. And you'll notice that cutting that off at a perpendicular, that's where I get this measure of the height from. So in any case, that's where this base times height formula comes from. There's nothing special about the perimeter of the parallelogram. It's just going to be all four side lengths added together. Let's call these A's. A plus B plus A plus B, or B plus A plus B plus A, I guess is the order I pointed to them. And we can combine them together to get 2B plus 2A. Those actually do all use the side lengths of the parallelogram. Alright, so if I wanted to find the area and the perimeter of this guy, the area, I'd have to use base times height. The only thing that I could use as a height here is this distance right there. It's actually called h in this illustration. That forces this to be my base right there. I would have to use the 7 inches as my base. I would not be able to use the 12 inches as my base. So let's see, this would be 7 times 10, which is 70. Those are both in inches, so we're talking about 70 square inches. The perimeter would be, well, 7 plus 12 plus 7 plus 12, or 2 times 7 plus 2 times 12, 14 plus 24, which is 38 inches. And the same thing goes for these ones. I'll do these first two. No, whatever. I'll do all of them. If you're feeling you have a good mastery of this, then go ahead and skip to the next video, but I'll do all these. Alright, so on this example, part A, I'm trying to find the area, which is base times height. It looks like 8 inches is the height, which would make this 12 inches my base. So I'd go 12 times 8, which is 96. And these are in inches, so this would be in square inches, 96 square inches. For my perimeter, I would take my side length plus my side length, and side length. Combining those together, I get 2 times 12 plus 2 times 9, which gives me 24 plus 18, which gives me, what is that, 42 inches. Alright, for part B, this one might not be quite as clear. But this 12, you'll notice this is not a side length, this would be my height, which would force this 11 to be my base. So my area would have to be 11 times 12, which gives me 132. Those are both in feet, so this would have to be in square feet. My perimeter would be, this distance would have to be 14, this distance would have to be 11. Again, these are parallelograms, so opposite side lengths are equal. And again, it doesn't really matter if you do the condensed formula or if you did 14 plus 11 plus 14 plus 11. The whole point of that is they're the same. It's 25 plus 25, which is 50. And we have 50 feet there. Alright, on this example, on all these previous examples, you'll notice my base was on the horizontal and my height was vertical, but in this example it looks like my height is actually on the horizontal and my base, the one that's measured at a perpendicular to it, would have to be on the vertical. So my area would be 22 times 16, and my perimeter would be 2 times 19 plus 2 times 22. Let me pull out the calculator for both of these measurements, though. 22 times 16 is 352. And this is measured in centimeters, so that'd be in square centimeters, because that's centimeters times centimeters. On this one we get 2 times 19 plus 2 times, what was the other measurement? 22. Which gives us 82. And this would be in centimeters, because that's a distance. And my last example here, we would want to convert these yards. This is 9 2/3 yards. Well, I guess I could convert everything to feet, but you know what? I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to call this h. Again, this is not one of the side lengths. This is measured at a perpendicular to this side, so that means this would be my base. My area here would be 9 2/3 times 13. Height times base. I guess I have those backwards. H times b, but b times h and h times b are the same thing. When plugging this into the calculator, mixed numbers are a little bit annoying to deal with, because to enter them into the calculator you have to use two operations. You have to do both addition and division there. And to make sure the order of operations works out correct, I'm going to put parentheses around it. So that's how I'm going to enter 9 2/3. I could do 9 point and a bunch of sixes or something like that, but this is an easier way and more accurate, actually. In my opinion, it's easier. So we have 125.6 repeating, and this would be in, let's see, we're taking yards times yards, so this would be square yards. And my perimeter would be 13 plus 16 plus 13 plus 16, or 2 times 13 plus 2 times 16, which gives me forgive the interruptions. This would have a total of 58 yards for the perimeter.